Welcome back, my little nightmares. It's me, Queen Nightmare, and I'm going to be reading the Snarry story. And update, my pastor said he's doing fine. They are doing the results, and they will get him back soon, but he doesn't know when. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you haven't seen my creepypasta story, I think it was my creepypasta story. What did I do yesterday? Or, well, today, technically. It's uploaded in 4 minutes. It's the Dreary story that I finished. My pastor had a heart attack, and he's fine now, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm worrying about it. Thank you for, not your concern because you don't know about it yet due to the fact that it hasn't been uploaded, but thank you for just being there for me because you have been there. If you haven't and you're a new subscriber, thank you for joining because my life's a mess and you hear a little bit of it through stories. Okay, we're doing chapter 2. I just read this. Why did it go right back to the beginning? Right back to the beginning. Okay. Snarry love story. Chapter 2. Despite Harry's misgivings, the Occlumency lesson with Professor Snape had gone surprisingly well, focusing on theory instead of practice. Harry had been able to get answers to some questions that Snape had simply barked at during their previous sessions. Though he had not been able to really try anything out, he thought he had a better grasp of what Snape had been showing him. Maybe if I could give him to talk about potions theory, I would do better in class too, Harry thought. Apparently watching Snape demonstrate a technique flawlessly, then Snape demonstrated a technique, then getting yelled at as he fumbled through it. It was not how Harry learned best. Nothing else but the evening had gone well. After 4 hours, a few of the Order members had returned briefly, then ran out again with nothing new to report. Sorry, I'm putting on the dishwasher. Once Snape had declared that Harry was too dense to absorb any more magical theory, Harry had moved to the kitchen where he disposed of Hagrid's attempt at dinner with a cleaning spell. Having nothing else to do, Harry kept some water going for tea and set the rest of Hagrid's sausage cooking with some potatoes. Eventually, someone would return with news, good or bad, and preparing for them kept Harry from worrying too much. Snape, on the other hand, he headed to his room as soon as the lessons were concluded. As the night wore on, Harry found it harder to distract himself from his thoughts. The water of the tea eventually boiled away, and the meager meal he had prepared was resting comfortably sorry, in an enhanced warmer that could keep it fresh for several more hours. He tried tidying up, but found that since Creature's departure, the house had been laden with cleaning spells. So there was little need for a broom or dust rag. I'm sorry. That's so embarrassing. I'm hungry, so that's why. With a final sigh of submission, Harry allowed his fears to surface. With Sirius gone, Harry was again without family. Friends he He knew Ron and Hermione would stick with him through anything. They already had, for that matter, and Harry made a mental note to do something to his appreciation for them. They took their family for granted, likely did not understand just what they meant to him. Not that he blamed them for it. Not now, at least. Though in moments of self-pity that Harry was not proud of, he had sent bitter words into the night about the injustice of losing Sirius, when people like Ron were surrounded by family and they spent more time complaining about brothers and sisters and parents and aunts and uncles and cousins and distant relatives than appreciating them. As much as he enjoyed the Weasleys' family and their love and attention, they would always remain his friends and family. Harry loved and respected Dumbledore, but not the way he loved Sirius. Dumbledore was too distant to be thought as a family member. Tonks and Moody were great in a pinch, but neither was the type of person who could spend hours talking to about the kinds of things he shared with Sirius. The only person in his life he thought he could look up to, that was Remus. And he, too, may be lost. Damn Voldemort! Harry cried, silently. Damn him. For taking everything from him. Damn him! Harry's mind clouded with anger and hatred, swept up into his righteous anger. Harry barely felt his scar burning until his vision darkened, and he found himself once again in a familiar and terrifying mind of his enemy. The small circular room was dark and moldy, and no windows interrupted the stone surfaces surrounding him. Through the room's only door, a masked Death Eater approached hesitantly. Harry felt a haughty sneer curl his lips as he recognized the fear oozing through the robes and mask. He could smell it in the air and see it in the slight tremble of the robes. He waited for his servant to speak. Fear this strong meant his servant had failed at something and expected a punishment. He knew he would be angry shortly, but for now he enjoyed the rank odor of terror in the room. Forgive me, master. The masked wizard tried to keep his voice steady. Voldemort fed on fear, but grew annoyed when his follower indulged too much in the weakness. Something went wrong with our plans tonight. The girl was stronger than we'd expected. Others from the Order arrived, and she escaped. We chased one of them into a cave, though. That cursed werewolf. The Death Eater's voice grew steadier. He had survived the news about their failed mission. No doubt he hoped that the following good news would allow him to escape punishment. The foolish hope Voldemort never forgot to punish. We have apparating charms on the cave. He can't escape. I left 2 guards on the cave and returned for reinforcements. We tried to get in after him ourselves, but the mouth is too narrow to evade his spells. Return them. Voldemort's voice echoed painfully through Harry's mind. Take as many Death Eaters as you must to bring him to me alive. But first, let me remind you of what waits if you fail me again tonight. Harry's wand, no, Voldemort's, flashed before him. Crucio. The man before him crumpled to the floor in agony. Harry burned in pain with the Death Eater. Some small part of his mind thought back to his Occlumency lessons, and Harry finally shielded his mind. With the pain gone, Harry was able to pull himself from Voldemort's mind. Quietly, he hoped. Harry needed all his strength to pull himself from the kitchen table. He needed to tell Snape about what happened. Weak legs carried him up the stairs to one of the spare rooms. "Professor Snape," Harry called out hoarsely. Let me redo that. "Professor Snape," Harry called out hoarsely. He knew his voice had not penetrated the door, so he banged his fists on the solid wood panel. "Professor!" he tried again, though a little his strength had returned. Finally, an annoyed Snape pulled open the door. "What is it, Potter? Another apology?" "I'm sorry, sir. That I've had another vision. Voldemort. And I know where Remus is. He's in the cave. The Death Eaters said they chased him in there, so he can't be too far away from wherever Tonks was." "What else did you hear?" Snape ignored Harry's fading pain and weakness. "The cave surrounded with anti-apparating charms, so he can't escape." Harry suddenly remembered something else. "And the Weasleys were supposed to be searching around there. If the Death Eaters find them, they're going back with more wizards to capture Remus." "Did you see the Death Eaters on their way there?" "No, sir. Voldemort was punishing the one I saw first. There's still time. Someone has to go save Remus." Snape gazed coldly at Harry and said, "Surely, even a wit as dim as yours isn't fooled by this, Potter." Harry stared back in shock. "A friend is in trouble, and you're the only one around to save him." Sound familiar? Harry digested that for a moment. "No, sir. I mean, yes, sir. I see what you mean. But this time it was different. My other visions were always when Voldemort was feeling some strong emotion, like when he was planning to kill someone. This time, he was just sitting alone when the vision happened. The Death Eater came in after I was watching, and once he cast the Crucio spell, I pulled away. When I had the other visions, I could never get away when I wanted to." Snape's eyes narrowed as he studied Harry. "What were you doing when the vision started?" Harry blushed, not wanting to admit that he'd been wallowing again in self-pity. "Were you thinking of the Dark Lord?" Snape asked. Harry nodded. "And what emotion were you feeling?" "I was angry and sad. I was thinking about Remus and what Voldemort might do to him." "If that is indeed what you were feeling, then you are a fool, and the vision is another scheme of his. Care to give another answer, or shall I return to sleep?" "Damn him for making me say it," Harry thought. "I was thinking about me, sir, and what Voldemort had done to me, and how much I hated him for it." Certainly someone as hateful as Snape couldn't blame Harry for this feeling. Snape nodded. "Perhaps you initiated the connection then. The headmaster believes that love protected you from his curse when you were a baby. But that curse was cast in hate. Through hate you are bonded to the Dark Lord. Hate is the emotion you both share." Snape took... What the heck happened? Trying to find it. I just... This emotion you both share. Snape took a moment to consider. You are able to extricate yourself from his mind. How? Hopeful that the potions master believed him, Harry explained. I shielded my mind as you'd shown me, Professor. Once I wasn't feeling everything that Voldemort was, I realized I could pull myself out of his mind. Snape raised an eyebrow and remarked, There may be some hope for you left. The older wizard stepped into the hallway and, closing his door behind him, led Harry back to the first floor. Very well, Snape said. It would seem that it falls to me to go. Harry nearly insisted that he go too, but he realized that the instructor was certainly going to be apparating. He had no way to follow. Stay hidden, no matter how much time passes. If I return and find you so much as peeked through a window, you will not enjoy my reaction. I realize you have a habit of running into the arms of danger, at least like these, Potter. But right now, you are only a liability. Leaving this house will put you in danger. There is no need to be in. If I need to hear a lecture on how important you are, I will take it out of your hide. Are we clear? As much as he hated to stay behind, he knew Professor Snape was right. Yes, sir. Harry replied, and with a swirl of robes, the click of the front door closing, Harry was once again left alone. Harry woke to the sound of the door opening. His neck hurt. Both arms were tingling from the odd position he fell asleep in. Groggy, he raised his head and realized he had nodded off at the kitchen table. As his thoughts cleared, he remembered his worry for Remus and Snape's hasty departure. He rushed to the door, both hopeful and terrified, nearly collided with Tonks. Sorry, Harry, the young woman grimaced. No luck so far? I couldn't find out anything. With a sigh, the young Auror shook out her green hair. Still foggy from his interrupted nap, Harry had no idea how much time had already passed. Glancing at his watch, he realized it had been less than 20 minutes since Snape had gone off to help Remus. Harry's story spilled forth as he explained everything to Tonks. For her part, Tonks took the whole thing in stride. With only a few questions, she agreed that Snape had done the right thing in going after Remus. After all, Tonks said, he knows more about Occlumency than I do. If he thinks it wasn't a trick of the Dark Lord's, it probably wasn't. But if he's caught, Harry was suddenly aware of the danger Snape was putting himself in by taking action. If Snape was identified, there would be no escape. I should have gone with him. If there's only two of them there, like you said, he will be fine. Fine. He's got surprise on his side, not to mention he's meaner than the two Death Eaters combined. Tonks attempted at levity was lost on Harry, who now found himself worrying about Remus and Snape. And if he's not fine, Tonks continued, well, then Remus will be captured anyway, and Snape won't last long either. Better to go out fighting, right? Harry merely sighed. Listen, Harry, staying here was the best thing to do. Arthur and Molly were looking around there, and Severus may not like them, but he knows they can handle themselves when the hexes start to fly. But I'm curious, what did he threaten you with to get you to stay here? Nothing, Harry said. Well, he did threaten me, but he didn't need to. He was right when he said I was a liability. And the last time I tried to help someone, Harry trailed off as tears once again threatened and his throat constricted. You can't blame yourself for that, Harry. I know you keep hearing that, and I won't keep lecturing you on it, but when I became an Auror, the hardest thing for me to learn was my limits. I wanted to save someone. I damn near got myself killed trying. A part of growing up is knowing when you can't help, even if it means leaving a loved one in the hands of someone else. You do what seems best at the time and hope it's the right choice. That's all anyone can do. Another sigh. I know, Tonks, it's just hard to get my head and heart to agree. Tonks gave Harry a warm hug. No one said growing up was easy, Harry, she said. That's why I, for one, have refused to do it. The joke earned a half-hearted smile from Harry. Well, my heart is telling me to stay with you. By now, those other Death Eaters will be there. And Remus and the rest have either escaped or it's too late for them to help. I wonder what that big tunk was. Okay. She made her way into the kitchen and began helping herself to the food Harry had prepared. Time to wait and hope for the best. They were not forced to wait too long. Minutes after Tonks had sat down, the front door swung open once again, and 4 dark figures crowded into the hall. Harry reflected that most of his evening had been spent waiting in the kitchen and running into the hallway. As he once again leapt from his chair, "Everything's okay, Harry," Mrs. Weasley's voice greeted him. "Remus will be okay." Harry hadn't realized how tense he was until he heard the words and his body finally relaxed. Remus was supporting his right arm with his left. His forearm hung oddly in his grip. Remus explained, "Broken bones gone. One of them got me just as we were apparating. I dropped my wand and missed my chance to get away. So I took off into the woods. No worries though. I'm sure Severus was an extra painful bone growing has an extra painful bone growing potion for me somewhere." I mean, that's happened to Harry was it the first movie? Second movie, I think it was. That a guy who was like a sham came by. Yes, it was the second movie. Yes, second one, because it had the snake in it, and it was the one with the book and everything. Yes. It was whatever. And the phony was trying to fix his bone, and it was just turned it into jelly. That was nasty. But funny at the same time, because he was such a hack. You could tell he was a hack from the first time you saw him, and you're just like, oh, this dude, he's part of this now. First time I saw him. Harry nearly fell over with relief to hear Remus joking. The potion would be painful, though. Harry recalled his first experience with regrowing bones and shuddering. I know. I will have to brew one. Perhaps with a little experimentation, I can enhance the somatic component. Thank you. You might not enjoy the results, but I would. Harry wasn't entirely sure what Snape had meant by that, but he was pretty sure it had something to do with Remus being in pain and Snape liking the thought. Professor, Harry interrupted. What about the Death Eaters? Did they recognize you? His smirk made his customary appearance as Snape replied, Dead men can't see. Harry was surprised that the answer left him with little emotion. They may be his enemies, but when did he become so callous at the deaths of Voldemort's servants? Well, Mr. Weasley said, someone needs to tell Albus and Moody, sorry, I don't know why I did that, that everyone's okay. I think I know where to find Moody. Molly, you should probably head to Hogwarts and see if Albus is still there. Mrs. Weasley agreed, adding that if she did not return to the burrow soon, Ron and Ginny would be running feral. Tonks helped Remus to his room and commented that she needed her own rest. Finally, Snape and Harry were the only two left awake in the house. Though he knew he should be tired, Harry was wide awake. Now that Remus was back, he had something to focus his mind and energy on. Will you be brewing the potion for Remus tonight, Professor? Harry asked and got a curt nod in response. May I help you then? The question surprised even Harry. The occlumency, I think I'm saying it right, it might not be. You guys like to correct me, so you will correct me if I'm wrong. Though, certainly could have gone worse, and Harry was curious if that had merely been a fluke. Besides, now he might finally be able to do something to help Remus, instead of just sitting around worrying. Snape regarded Harry as a stranger might apprise a stray dog. I find it hard to envision a scenario within you would be helpful brewing a potion, and I have had several years to do so. Harry blushed, but again did not rise to the offered bait. I just thought perhaps I could attend to the brazier or lay out any ingredients for you, Professor. He could put up with Snape's remarks if he got a chance to help Remus. He knew trying to sleep was pointless anyway, and countless restless nights on Privet Drive had taught Harry just how long the night can be. Well, you do seem literate. Well, what? Okay. My mind wandered for some reason. Well, you do seem literate. Enough to read the labels on bottles. If even you have a hard time stringing a full sentence together in your own way, Very well. Relieved, Harry followed the potions master to his room, where he had a rudimentary potions lab set up. The relief did not last long. Do those coals look bright orange to you, Potter? No, sir. Then color blindness is not your excuse. Leave the brazier, I will handle it myself. Mr. Potter, did I ask you for lacewing flies? No, sir. That's the horn slugs you needed. I stand corrected. About your literacy, then. Your reading skills not quite what I had hoped. You can't crush leeches with a knife, Mr. Potter. But I was slicing them, sir. The tube worms which you appear to have crushed were to be chopped. The leeches that you are chopping need to be crushed. The evening had not improved after that, and Harry finally left to his own room when Snape began speculating that Harry was working for Voldemort, and his help with the potion was meant to torture Snape and kill Remus. In your dreams, buddy boy. The following morning, Harry awoke to a much busier. I can read. Busier house than he had fallen asleep in. Heading out into the hall, Harry could hear muffled grunts of pain coming from Remus's room. He was caught unawares that when Snape opened Remus's door. "Ah, Mr. Potter. Bad news, I'm afraid. The potion seems to be working properly despite your assistance last night." "I'm sorry about that, sir. I did try to help, but I guess I was more tired than I realized," Harry said. "No doubt." What was that voice, though? No doubt. Snape responded, Saving the world must be exhausting." Harry sighed silently as Snape brushed past him down the stairs. Why do I bother? Snape is always going to hate me, no matter what I do. I don't think that's hate. I think that's like, you know how like little kids always tease the other girls that they like because they don't know what to do with the emotion. They just bully them. I think this is what it is. Like, guys do it still in their 40s, I guess. Depends on the dude. As he headed into the kitchen to see what, if anything, was to be had for breakfast, Harry was dismayed to see Snape already seated at the table. This was going to be a long summer if both he and Snape were going to be locked up in the house together. Mrs. Weasley's appearance saved Harry from having to suffer the potions master's cold gaze for too long. Whoops. Harry dear, Mrs. Weasley exclaimed. I didn't expect you up this early, or I'd have spelled up some breakfast for you. Thank you, Mrs. Weasley, Harry replied, but I'm fine with the bread and butter I found. I'm not used to a big breakfast during the summer. Harry immediately regretted reminding the overzealous witch about his living conditions with the Dursleys. Mrs. Weasley launched into a tirade about those people and insisted in preparing Harry what she called a proper breakfast. An hour later, Harry was sure he would burst if he so much as looked at another piece of sausage. Thanking Mrs. Weasley yet again, Harry tried to escape to the second floor to check on Remus. He froze with his foot on the first step when Snape's chilly voice caught him. Finally finished, Mr. Potter.
Then you can join me in the library. Best to get these lessons out of the way early before my mood turns foul." Harry bit his tongue, followed the instructor up to the 3rd floor. The library, Harry was surprised to discover, was far more cheery than the parlor below. Tall windows allowed ample light into the high-ceilinged chamber. Overstuffed chairs rested beside thick mahogany tables, and the entire room, books and all, was spotless, with no dust. Most wizard families of high standing had extensive magical libraries and archives, and the Black family had been no exception. So when the Order of the Phoenix had moved in, the library had been one of the rooms first cleaned and restored to a livable state. As much time had been spent researching ways to combat the Dark Lord, Harry found was eager to begin his occlumency training. After yesterday's nearly enjoyable session, and even more after his successful exercising of control during last night's vision, Harry was willing to do whatever he needed in order to control the foul bond he shared with Voldemort. The pensive sitting beside one of the chairs made for an uneasy few moments for Harry before he decided to ignore its presence. I think that's what it says. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be, but that's where we'll go. As best as he could, he suppressed the feelings of guilt and pity that rose in him at the magic device's sight. After all, the occlumency is little more than the focused control over emotions and memories. And if he could not quell his unease in this room, he would never be able to defend himself against the Dark Lord's full attention. The lessons began with Harry giving a more detailed accounting of what had happened the previous night. As Remus was safe on the 2nd floor, there was no need to cover the details of what had been seen and heard. Instead, Snape questioned Harry on his emotional and mental state leading up to and during the time he spent with Voldemort's mind. As he had yesterday, Harry was able to ask questions of his instructor that earned useful, detailed answers. And though Harry suspected he was mistaken, he had thought he saw a flash of approval when Harry described how he had chosen not to break the link until Voldemort's thoughts and actions had turned to Crucio curse. Should this happen again, you must determine if you are indeed in control or if the Dark Lord is merely allowing you to feel that. You have some power over these visions. Snape had said, "There are still too many unknowns. Did you create the link with your feelings of hatred, or did you simply give him a chance to exploit?" What the heck was that? Something moved outside the window and I don't like it. Did that simply give him a chance to exploit a weak moment? Can you only break contact if you opened the channel yourself? Or can you shield yourself from his emotions, even if the visions come upon you as well as they did last year? With those questions in mind, Snape informed Harry that it was time for some practical experience. As he moved the threads of memories with his wand into the nearby pensive, Snape was silent, and Harry had no intentions of bringing up the last incident involving Snape's memories of his fucked up dad. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say that. Harry had no intention to prepare himself for the mental attack. One moment, Snape's wand had been plucking thoughts from his head. The next, Snape was forcing his mind into Harry's. Taken by surprise, Harry had little time to shield himself from the onslaught, and the potions master quickly overcame Harry's defenses. "You must always have your mind under your control, Potter. You know that," Snape lectured. Again, without warning, Snape launched another assault on Harry's mind. This time, he took a different course of action, and rather than looking for stray thoughts, which Harry had successfully cleared from his mind, the professor began stirring up powerful emotions. Breathless, Harry was unable to defend himself as wave after wave of anger, happiness, hatred, embarrassment, loneliness, and joy trembled through him. One moment he was overcome with his hatred for Voldemort. The next he was reveling in his reveling in his friendship with Ron and Hermione, annoyance at Dudley, grief of Sirius, pity for Snape. With the last, Harry's mind went blank, and I could feel Snape's presence pull back so quickly from his mind that it left him off balance, slightly nauseated. "We're done for today," Snape said, his voice sending a chill down Harry's spine. Harry was confused and disoriented when the older wizard retrieved his memories and strode silently out of the room. Harry felt at a loss. Every hour seemed to leave Professor Snape hating him even more, and he'd only arrived at Order's headquarters 12 hours ago. Knowing that anything he did to try to ease the tension between them would only anger Snape, Harry headed to check on Remus. He knocked on the werewolf's door softly and peeked his head inside, and Remus's strained reply, "Hello, Harry," Remus said when the boy had entered the room. "I hear you're to thank for my timely rescue." Harry responded with a weak smile and a shrug. It wasn't exactly intended, but I suppose so. I still don't know exactly how I managed to open the link between us. Or even if I did. Professor Snape seems to think so. Though, and I probably shouldn't argue with him right now. Trouble with Snivellus, huh, Harry? Remus said with a chuckle that disappeared at Harry's pained expression. "What is it, Harry? If he's making you miserable." Harry shook his head. Snape had been making him miserable, but that was nothing new. "No, it's not that. It's just the name you called him. Snivellus? I remembered that from the memory I saw." "Do you really have to call him that?" Remus shrugged. "Oh, it's more of a joke between us now, Harry. I don't call him that much, but I think he knows I don't really mean anything by it." Harry wasn't so sure, and he said so to Remus. It'll make you feel better. Feel better. I won't call him that anymore, okay? Remus asked. Harry smiled at the recovering wizard and decided to change the subject. Remus, damn it. If you could hear that, that was my stomach again. I need to eat something. Maybe I'll just eat myself. Remus, how are you in such a good mood? When I had to take the skelly grow, I was in so much pain. Harry said, Severus is a potion master after all, and he made the potion. His tend to be a bit better than the ones Madame Pomfrey buys to stock the infirmary. Plus, I only had a missing arm. It's nearly recovered. I've just a few fingers left, I think. Now I'm sure you came up to check on me. But judging by the look on your face when you came in here, I think you had something else in mind, too. Want to talk? After Remus's casual use of Snape's hated nickname, Harry was not so sure about talking to him about his situation with the professor. Come on, Harry, I have to lie here all day. Talking to you about your problems will make the time go faster. Harry eventually reluctantly came over and explained the deteriorating situation with Snape. From the Occlumency lesson of the day before to his help making the potion last night, and finally to the lesson earlier today. Remus took a few minutes to think about what Harry had told him. Well, Harry, I think I can explain his reaction earlier today easily enough. If there's anything Severus hates, it's being pitied. You said yourself you felt that emotion during his attack in your mind. He must have felt it too. I didn't mean to feel that way, Harry protested. I didn't say you had, lad. But anyone would feel uncomfortable knowing they're being pitied, especially by someone who's supposed to be their inferior. I'm afraid I don't really know how to deal with that, though. Severus is a hard man to read, and I don't know anyone who's managed to get beneath that hateful facade he puts on for everyone. As for the lessons, I do think I know why Occlumency goes a lot easier with you two, aside from today's unfortunate mishap, than potions class. To him, potion making is an art, not simply a skill to be mastered. It should be appreciated for its subtle power and fickle rules. But can't you say the same thing about Occlumency? Harry asked. Well, yes, you can, Harry, but it's not the same to Snape. Remus paused to collect his thoughts. Okay. Think of it this way. You taught defense against the dark arts to a bunch of students, right? Harry nodded. Why did you teach it? Well, because everyone was going to fail it if I didn't. Hermione thought I was probably better at it than the other students, since I've had so much practice, and Umbridge wasn't teaching it, not really. And the students you were teaching? Why were they learning it? Well, Ron and Hermione believed Voldemort was back, and so they'd need to know how to defend themselves. I guess a few others might have thought the same way, but most of them were just worried about their OWLs. And at least one was there to pick up girls, Harry added with a chuckle. Remus nodded, as if expecting the answer. Good. Now, let's say someone asked you to teach them how to play Quidditch. Would you teach them? Assuming you weren't locked up with a bunch of suicidal Aurors and ex-Death Eater. What that is. Yes, I probably would. Harry wasn't sure where this was going. What if they told you they wanted to learn how to play Quidditch to pick up girls, or because they thought they got good enough that they'd make lots of money? Harry replied quickly, Then I probably wouldn't. If they wanted to learn how for girls or money, I wouldn't want to waste my time. That's not why you play Quidditch. It's about the freedom of flying, the excitement of a close game, the way it feels when you spot the snitch, and no, the other player's seeker has no idea where it is. Again, Remus nodded as Harry's answer. Okay, now why are you learning Occlumency? Still confused at the odd line of questioning, Harry answered, because I have to learn it. If I don't, Voldemort will always have a way to control me. Of course you realize, Harry, that's why Severus is more skilled at Occlumency than any of the Aurors in the Order, Remus said. Harry had assumed as much. The mark Snape bore bound him to the Dark Lord, just as Harry's scar did. And every time Snape entered the Dark Lord's presence, he was forced to hide a part of his mind from Voldemort without allowing Voldemort to see the masquerade. I still don't see, Harry began. One last question, then, Harry. Why are you learning potions? Another easy one. I have to. I want to be an Auror one day, and I'll need to know as much about potions making as I can if I'm going to be any good at it. It's required by the Ministry of Magic. Remus smiled broadly. Congratulations, Harry. You just found your answer, he said. Harry protested that he was still as confused about the potion master as before, but Remus assured Harry he'd sort it out in due time. Confused, Harry stepped into the hallway and was going to return to the library, hoping to find something interesting to read. As he passed Snape's bedroom, is it obnoxious odor? I think that's what it is. Told Harry that the professor was working in his miniature laboratory. No, Harry thought as Remus's words finally became clear. He's on his Quidditch pitch. Okay. I see. Now they're trying to get to know each other. That's good. That's good to learn. But He needs to be careful, though. Because once you get too close, you might get burned. Okay, guys, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to end it here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day. My video has now been up for about 30 minutes, and I hope you guys have watched it and probably learned what I just said. It's a long video, it's an hour, so this one's going to be an hour too, but I don't care because I like reading for you guys, and I will go through the suffering of reading it because I love you. Be happy, be healthy, and always be loving. Be good people. Stay safe and healthy from this whole pandemic. I love you guys. Bye.